I was taking another look at the recent gameplay update today and the kind of subsequent patch fixes that came behind it, and there were two heroes that were notably not included that I think we should expect full-on remodels for and maybe even redesigns for. Hey everyone, this is Connor here at Dead Unlocked, and I feel like I've been seeing more and more sentiments in the Deadlock community recently of people curious about like current hero remodels and kind of what design changes we should see to the current cast, because especially in the light of this gameplay update, big changes are happening. So today I want to go through kind of hero by hero a lot of the heroes that I think we should expect updates for in terms of their design, and also, like I said, two heroes that I think we could get full-blown remodels for. Like I said, the inspiration for this video really comes from a few different sentiments I've seen about people wanting hero remodels, but one of the main ones I want to talk about here is a little tier list I saw on the Deadlock the Game subreddit. This was posted about a month ago, but it talks about basically heroes that this person in the OP thinks definitely needs a remodel versus ones that need some serious work. But I think this top row is a pretty good framework for the heroes I want to talk about in this video. So left to right, I want to go through Viscous, Vyper, Warden, Talon, Bebop, Yamato, Moe, Krill, and Sinclair, and talk about why those heroes I think need remodels. There are some others on the list you can maybe make the case for, but a lot of the other heroes in the cast, I think artistically are in a really good spot between all the recent patches, and especially from gameplay perspectives, I think are way better now that, you know, in the light of this massive gameplay patch, a massive percentage of the cast were updated. So I kind of want to start off, like I said, going left to right, and we'll start off with Viscous. And I think Viscous is actually a perfect place to start because of the heroes on this list, I would actually argue Viscous is one of the most likely to be getting a visual remodel at some point. And this could go in a lot of different directions, and we've actually talked about some leaks about this in the past. So the first ever leak about this actually comes about 9 months ago when there was a tourist Viscous like screenshot shared around. I actually still to this day don't necessarily know the legitimacy of that. I've heard different people claim different things in terms of the rumor mill between sources goes. But where that really, I think, comes from is the different hero voice lines that refer to Viscous as a tourist. So I think Vyper has one, I'm checking the wiki here, Mina has one, Victor, and then a Viscous, you know, he, I think, even says, "I hate fighting a fellow tourist" when he kills Holiday. So it's tough to know whether that should be taken literally as like he's a tourist proper to New York, like he's coming to visit and see the sights, or if he's a tourist in the sense that he's just not in his home. So and that would line up more with Viscous's lore as well. He's trying to protect the deep sea from the adversary who hunts the seas, according to his background info. So it could just be that he's a tourist in the sense that he's not at home, he's in a distant land, and he's trying to complete the ritual for his own reasons. If that's the case, I would expect actually Viscous to have more of like a nautical theme. I actually saw a post on Reddit, I'll throw it on the video as well, recently, kind of with someone doing some fan art about this, where he has like, I think he's in like a tank that you might like a, you know, like a diver's tank or something. So that could be the direction Viscous goes. In any case though, Viscous has a super kind of standard rig right now. I actually kind of love the way he looks. It's like very Flubber-esque, but I still expect Viscous to get a remodel for sure. And before we get to Vyper, last thing on Viscous, there was a claim back in October of 2025 that he was getting a remodel alongside some other heroes. There really wasn't much follow-up on that though, so for the time being, we have to either assume that that wasn't the case, or, which I actually think is more likely, that that project was probably put on hold alongside the other hero remodels while obviously all the contents of the last 4 months were worked on. Now I would assume devs, at least at some point coming up, will turn their attention back to those things. We may mention some October leaks, because that was kind of the last time where we were hearing about a lot of this. Next up is one of the two heroes that I think could get a complete redesign, and that is Vyper. Vyper was not patched at all in the massive gameplay update that just happened recently, and this was also a hero that there have been different rumors in the past, going back to those October dates, where this was a hero that different leakers were debating could get remodeled or not. Minesweeper, I think, at one time claiming that there was no remodel in the works, but in any case, I think Vyper is one that we will at least get something new visually for. Just, again, a character that I think needs an art update to kind of keep up with some of the other animations and the style of the cast, at least at that level. But it's also a hero that I could see. I mean, there have been a lot of changes to her kit already. I mean, just the way that her one and her ult work have all been changed quite a bit. But this is still a hero I could see getting changed. So it may not be that her abilities change, but I do think Vyper is certainly a candidate to get reworked visually. Next up is Warden, and we have not heard any leaks, at least to my knowledge, about a Warden redesign, at least none that got the substance that we covered them here. But this is definitely a hero that I think will get updated. His lore is so cool. If you've never had a chance to read Warden's lore, definitely go take a look at it. But he's got this epic backstory, and I just feel like he needs a little bit more epic of a design to match that. He's been like trained since birth to fight the patrons, and I just don't get that when I look at Warden right now. So this is one of those heroes that has never been remodeled. It's really been the same Warden since day one of when I started playing Deadlock back in 2024. And I really do expect Warden to change in terms of a remodel. So again, nothing really to show in terms of what we think that is. Just a hero that I agree with the OP of this Reddit post that I absolutely think would be getting a remodel. Next up are 3 heroes that are basically just straight up copies from Neon Prime, which was Deadlock's predecessor. That was kind of a thing Valve had worked on that eventually morphed into Deadlock, and that is Grey Talon, Bebop, and Yamato. Of these, by far the one we have to talk about the most is Yamato. There was a leak that we covered back in October, around the same time that we were covering a lot of the other like Viscous Vyper things, and it was of this Yamato remodel where she had a super wide brim hat. And this was a screenshot that was shared and kind of talked about within the community for a while. But this, whether it's this direction or somewhere else, it could very well be the case that Valve go in a different direction, especially when we look at how old this is and how kind of incredible some of the other heroes look. Maybe this isn't quite the same direction. Maybe it is. Either way, with Grey Talon and Bebop and Yamato, I really think all 3 will get some pretty severe visual changes. I think of them, probably it's the most needed for Yamato, though. I think Grey Talon could just be tweaked and stylized a bit more, maybe some animations updated. Bebop, it's hard to know. I think Bebop is kind of understandable as he is. He's this robot. I mean, he makes sense to me. And I also love Cowboy Bebop, and he kind of feels like he's, you know, cut from the same cloth. So I don't know. It's cool there. But I do think Yamato of the bunch is just, it to me, is the worst looking hero in the game and by far needs the most visual updates. And the last 2 on this row are Mo and Krill and Sinclair. Mo and Krill is just one that is kind of like Warden, not much to say in terms of leaks, but has been the same hero since OG Deadlock, and I would just expect to have a visual update to him. Sinclair is a super interesting one, though. Sinclair is another hero, like I mentioned with Vyper, who's kind of that second candidate for who I think could get potentially redesigned. Now, I think Sinclair's kit is really cool now. Valve have obviously spent a lot of time curating it, and I expect maybe it to maintain a lot of its original characteristics, maybe? But I at least think Sinclair will visually get completely overhauled. Part of this being because of his lore. He has, I think, maybe my favorite lore in game. He basically just wants to complete the ritual to get a divorce, and he's Sinclair is basically this 2-part person, Henry and Savannah, that are kind of sewn together right now. And I would love to see that more in his visual, like whether it's a half and half person or someone who visually changes during the course of the game, maybe each death that were to alternate or something. I think there's a lot more Valve could do visually with Sinclair, and that I think they will do in the future. And if his kit remains the same, that would be fine. But I actually, personally at least, I could see the Sinclair being in the future a 2-form hero, where Henry has 1 form and 1 set of abilities and Savannah has another, and then maybe there's a way to toggle back and forth between them, kind of like Silver functions right now in ult, right? So I think this could be a similar idea. I would love to see something like that. This is already such a creative hero and a fan favorite, and so I certainly don't think you'd remove this hero, nothing like that, but I think a complete visual overhaul and potentially a kit overhaul as well could be in the cards for Sinclair. But again, it's not necessarily the case that just because Vyper and Sinclair weren't adjusted in this gameplay update that they're going to be overhauled. Could be that there's another gameplay update coming soon, could be a number of different things, right? But I do think it's worth noting that those 2 heroes are 2 that we definitely expect visual updates for, and they weren't patched. So it tells me maybe Valve is thinking, why would we tweak something that we're going to overhaul? Just a thought process worth exploring, I feel like, in this video. Overall, I just feel like now is a good time in Deadlock's development to start talking about hero remodels. We've got this massive gameplay update. We've had a couple kind of patch fixes to it since, and so I think we may get 1 or 2 more of those. But after that, it really makes sense to me that kind of once you've ironed out how the heroes' kits are going to work generally, you can then start to tweak specific animation arts and then character arts to kind of match how their ability kits work. That's at least to me how I'm understanding Valve's development right now. It may not be exactly that workflow, but it at least makes sense to me, you know, as a fan and someone who's been playing Deadlock for a long time, that the kind of the rest of the cast gets fixed now. We've had 12 new heroes added to the game in the last 8, probably 9 months or so, not exactly tracking the updates, but it now, like I said, makes sense for me that we look at the rest of the cast, get everyone kind of artistically up to snuff before an open beta or a more serious release comes around the corner. So this is just my take. I'm not sure the timeline-wise when we'll get this. I had originally thought we'd get a really significant major update in March, actually. It may be the case that it's April or summer at this point. You never know with Valve, and I also didn't expect the gameplay patch to be quite as significant as it was. So in any case, in terms of timeline for this is what I'm trying to get to. I would think that it would be summer when we see some major adjustments added. But again, a lot of these things we've been talking about for 6-9 months in terms of hero remodels, so we really don't have a good timeline to give you. In any case, I'll continue to keep an eye on all the leaks and all the news coming to Deadlock. There's definitely been a slowing of leaks, especially of the last probably 3 months. And I think that's an intentional choice by Valve. As we inch closer and closer to the game releasing, you're going to see less and less leaks for this game because a lot of it is going to become a little bit more high stakes and under a little bit more lock and key. So if you're wondering kind of where leaks are and why we've been reporting on them less, there's just been less leaked information to talk about. But in any case, still plenty of Deadlock, interesting guides, updates, a lot of new stuff coming out of the pipeline. Be sure to stay tuned, and thank you all so much for tuning in. From our house to yours, we'll see you all next time here at Dead Unlocked.